Hello, everyone. This is Ed Brenniger, and welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. My guest today is Perry Knoppert.
Yeah, perfect.
How about that? I'm getting
Wow.
better, getting better at saying people's names. Um, After 100 and I don't know how many of these, 190 some odd. Anyway, welcome. And this is our first conversation, so I know all that I know is that you have something to do with the octopus. And even that is a total, I don't know what that means. So tell
Here
us,
it is. Yeah.
I see that. I mean,
Yeah.
I see that. So tell us a little bit about yourself and come tell us what the octopus is.
A little bit about myself. That's always a challenge. I have lots to
We have an
say.
hour. We have an hour,
We have
and
an hour.
I don't
Oh,
have to
okay.
ask any questions. That's fine.
What do you want to know from me? Um what do you want me to tell? Me or what
Where do
I
you live?
do?
Where do you live? Where do you
I
live?
live in the Netherlands. I'm
Okay.
Dutch, hence my accent. Some
Yeah.
people say it sounds like German. I always crack up about that when I visit the United States. Oh, you sound. One time I had a meeting in the US, and a bunch of guys were saying to me, "You sound like the guy from Inglorious Bastards." That's not a compliment.
No, that isn't. That isn't.
No,
I don't think Dutch sounds like German.
no. But
Uh-uh.
for some people,
I
it
guess
does.
so. I can see that, but I think Dutch sounds like Dutch. That's
I
my.
hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
So were you born and raised in the Netherlands?
I'm 49 years old. I'm born and raised in the Netherlands. I traveled the world a little bit. We were an expat family. My ex-wife used to work for an American company, the Mars, the chocolate company, the
Yeah.
pet food, and Uncle Ben's and everything. We went to China for her work. We lived in Beijing, which was absolutely fantastic. I love that. That was that's maybe who I am. That journey to China illustrates who I am because I saw a lot of expats not having fun because it was a bit too difficult and they missed their usual way of going.
Hmm.
And I like chaos. I like things to be not clear. I like it when there's a big challenge. I like it when it's not lined out for me. Like we're gonna do this today. This is expected from you. I like surprises. So moving to Beijing, that was a big surprise. And we had two little kids. And I remember well that my little son is just 2 years old or something, little chubby guy. And we came in, so we landed in Beijing first time, with your family, all your bags. You're picked up by your driver that you have never seen before, telling you, I'm going to be your driver for as long as you're in China. Okay. He brought us to our apartment building, which was temporarily before everything came to the house that we would live in. And we came into the room and we're missing one bed, one little bed for the young little baby. Ole is his name. Shit, sorry, I don't know if I can use that here in the podcast, but sorry for that. Um, oh, we need to have a little bed. I need to go to IKEA. So this was we just landed in Beijing, got into the apartment building. These were the first hours in Beijing, and I took a taxi to IKEA, which is called in Chinese Ija, which means global standard. So I call my octopus that is sitting there, bought at IKEA, Ija, which means global standard. And I find that funny because of the octopus movement. Anyway,
Like
I
that.
came there, bought the bed. IKEA in Beijing is hilarious because everything is the same and everything is different at the same time. And I was standing outside with this huge box and I wanted to go into the taxi, and everyone was saying, no, 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 it's not possible. I didn't speak a word of Chinese, ni hao, and that's it. I nothing. I didn't have a cell phone yet. I just landed in China. I didn't have anything. And a whole group of Chinese people were standing around me, talking to me. had no clue what they were saying. I figured out that I wasn't allowed to go into the taxi with the big box. Some people try to negotiate with me so someone could bring me home. I paid 100 RMB to drive me home, which is way too much, but that I know now, but back then I had no idea. And this car ad came in front of me, with the spoilers and the blue light underneath the car, and the whole car was going, was Chinese rap music playing. And the dude drove off with me very fast, completely in the wrong direction, not towards the apartment building at all that was close to the airport. He was going into the city. So I had to say to him, we're going the wrong way. But he didn't understand what I was saying. I didn't understand what he was saying. So I was making the gesture of the airport. Finally, he turned around, went into the direction of the airport. Way later, hours later, I got home in the apartment building. He got out of the car, went upstairs with me into the apartment building, and helped me to mount the bed for my son. And then he left. That's who I am. This is what I love. I had so much fun. I was like, oh, this is China. Thank you.
We've had similar experiences. I haven't
Really?
lived overseas, but I've traveled a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that travel, I've been by myself. So when you travel by yourself, the only people to talk to are the locals.
Hmm.
And it's great. My daughter taught English in Baoding for a couple of years and one of the universities there. And I went over and spent a couple of weeks there and got to meet a philosopher from the university. And we really hit it off like we were old pals. It was a great experience. Um,
Beautiful.
so so maybe the question I should ask you is, uh, are we around the world more similar to one another than we are different?
I think we're all one of one and we're all the same. We're all our individual with our own thinking, and that's our private state of being. And by being human, we're all human. And it doesn't matter if you're in China, in Amsterdam, or
Yeah.
in the US. It doesn't matter. And then we have cultural differences. I always enjoyed talking about that with the Chinese. They were cracking up always. It- You can never win from us with the culture card. If we don't like you, we play the culture card and you make a mistake anyway, somewhere along the line you're making a mistake. You're doing something that you're not supposed to do. I had a training, Welcome to China, with all these rules. And she also said, these are just the average rules, but there's so many more. And I said, but you cannot never ever know them all. She said, no, forget about it. And but being humble and human, I made many mistakes in China. They didn't care about my mistakes. The ego wasn't in the way. But if you're an ego prick and being really, really nasty, then they play the ego card, the culture card. Then, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But if you're not doing that, it's okay to make mistakes. We're all human and we're all connected in a way.
Well, if you show your interest in them, it's genuine.
Hmm.
It's not suspicious, but curious. I think people will always respond well to that. And
Hmm.
I went to
I.
London a month ago,
Hmm.
and we got there and I realized that I had brought the wrong connections for my computer. So I had to go to the Apple store, and so I had to figure out how I was going to get there. I did that. And I walked over there, and after leaving the store, it's over near Hyde Park. This guy was standing over there looking at me, and if someone is looking at me intently, I'm going to go talk to him. And it turns out he's a man on the street who does interviews. and he had a young woman who was videotaping his
Oh,
interactions.
really?
Yeah, and he wanted he this is so funny. He wanted to know what my preference for male cologne was.
Okay.
I said, I've never worn cologne. He said, "Really?"
Never?
I said, you mean
Wow.
when you go out on a date, do you not wear cologne? I says, no. Maybe I should. Tell me why I should wear cologne, you know? And so the interaction was just priceless. And I said, I talk with people like this all the time. This is, on a podcast. And I said, um, why don't you take the camera from her and you film the two of us talking? And he did that. And we had a lovely, 3 minute conversation. And I said, so here's my card. Send me your email and I'll invite you on my podcast and we'll continue our conversation. And I think that's one of the things to me that is interesting about having contact with people who are outside of your normal context, which is what does it take for us to have the second conversation with someone? We'll have a second conversation at some point. This is our first, but we'll have. What does it take for that to happen? Because if you can have the second conversation, then there can be a third and a fourth, and all of a sudden you have formed a friendship which transcends time and space.
Did you buy any cologne?
I did not.
No?
No, I didn't have anybody to take out. I didn't have a date. I should have asked him if he had a sister that I could date or something. I don't know.
Did it not sparkle your interest in what happens if I so you can wear cologne. I'm not wearing any cologne, but I can imagine you can wear cologne also when you're not going on a date and your
Well, he
a
sprayed some on
scent is very nice,
he
right?
sprayed some on my hand,
Oh,
and I don't
that's
remember
cool.
the name of it. He says, "What do you smell there?" I don't smell it. I don't really smell much of anything. He said, here, he put some more on. He says, "This smells like the woods. It's nature."
Oh, nice.
And I like this. And, this would be something I would, and this may end up on some TV or some social media feed. I could wear this. I would like this.
And what is your favorite scent?
My favorites,
Not cologne, but scent in
that's
daily life or
I like, um, that's a great question. Um, I like the scent. It's not the smell of single malt scotch because it's
yeah?
so complex,
Yeah.
and my sons and we are big fans of it. So we'll pour a little glass and we'll smell it.
And you enjoy the smell of it. Something like Magellan or
Yeah,
these kind of single malts. Yeah.
yeah, yes. What else I like the smell of bread.
Mm,
I mean, food smells.
yeah.
Uh, and then in the spring,
Apple pie, right?
apple pie. Yeah,
Everybody loves apple pie.
particularly on Thanksgiving, which is today. You know. So, so what about you? What's the smell that or the aroma that most pleases you?
Fatwood. Can you imagine?
Huh.
I love that. My son is all into nature and survival and wood and he came to me one day and he said, "Dad, you have to smell this. This is fatwood." And it's very strong. And I smelled it. I was like, "Oh my God, this is so good. I love this." And now I live in a forest and so we chop wood for the fireplace and we have these trees that have fat wood in it. And then, working with the chainsaw and
There's a
he's
lot of sap in fat wood,
yeah,
and that's probably what you're smelling.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I like trees. I like the smell of trees.
I love that smell. And we've been actually looking and trying to find, scented candles with fat wood or other things with fat wood, but it's we can't find it. And then we try to capture the aroma ourselves from the fat wood, but oh my boy, oh my God, that was a hassle. And we're like, yeah, yeah, we will figure it out one time. But every time there's a chunk of fat wood in the wood, we're both, oh, it's so good. And apple pie. I love the scent of apple pie.
Um, and I like the smell of some beers.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Particularly, well, Belgian beers, they have that very,
Hmm.
um, I don't know what the aroma is, but it's not
You're in
like,
the alcohols, Ed.
I know, I know.
Whiskey, beer. What about wine? Do you also enjoy the smell of wine?
I like red wine. Yeah. I
Yeah.
really like, Pinot, Pinot Noir wine.
Hmm.
Um, I like champagne.
Yeah.
I like things I drink. I like coffee, and
This,
I drink a lot of coffee.
the smell of coffee is also awesome. Wonderful.
Yes.
Freshly brewed coffee in the morning. That's a beautiful smell as well.
Right.
Scent. What do you say? Smell or scent? What's the proper word to use?
Um, Smell.
Smell?
Scent sounds kind of manufactured.
Mm. But there is this movie with Al Pacino that's called The Scent of a Woman, which is absolutely, I think,
It's great. It's a great movie.
what a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hooah! Yeah, I love that
Well,
movie.
so, well, maybe it's the scent of people, which is also interesting.
Hmm.
How some people, because I think the sense that we give off, our bodily sense, have a lot to do with the things that we eat or drink. You know, they come out of our pores, particularly, um, if I know that a lot of the people I know here in the States like really hot, peppery food.
Hmm.
You can smell it on them after they've eaten
Yep.
a lot of
Yep.
stuff.
You
So
can. And in China, they drink baijiu. And baijiu is like vodka, but then the Chinese version. It's horrible stuff. It tastes like you can clean the toilet with it.
is it like
It's it
soju in Korea?
yes. And
Yeah.
if you drink that a lot, that's a smell the next day. And then you're in a plane and then you have all these and you have an early flight and you have all these people that were drunk the day before drinking baijiu. Smells horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a Korean daughter-in-law, so um,
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful. And so we occasionally will have soju. I'm going to their house for dinner today, so I'm wondering if he's going to have soju. My son's going to have soju. So I don't know.
Korea is very interesting. I think it's a very interesting country. And yeah.
It is. Um, have you spent much time there?
I've never been there, but we have in the Octopus Movement an ambassador for Korea, and I work together with her a lot. And there are connections being made between the Octopus Movement and Korea. So it's interesting to see what's happening and how they respond to what we're doing in regards to their culture and the things they're doing. It's fascinating.
Let's talk about the octopus movement. What is that? What are you moving?
Hmm. Weirdos.
All right. And I join.
You're more than welcome. I've always been a bit weird or very weird. I don't know. Particular. I've always been different. Let me put it that way.
Mhm.
And 4 years ago, I decided to give it all away and become homeless. That's a simple sentence, but it's not very simple in reality. Things happened, and I decided this is it for me. I don't want to do this anymore. If this is life, then no, thank you. I want to disconnect from everything and see what remains. What is there? What is really out there? What's life? And while I was there, I discovered that nothing really changed. That was the best discovery because it's here. You're thinking, you're feeling the smells, the appreciation of the morning smell when you come outside, sun. It's here. It's not there. It's here.
Right.
So when you become homeless, here nothing changes. There, everything changes because people look at you differently. My own parents didn't want to see me. My ex-wife wanted to kill me. I don't blame her because we have 3 kids. So that was very difficult. Friends didn't understand what I was doing. And after 7 months, I wasn't homeless anymore. And I discovered that I can survive homelessness. I really didn't have anything anymore, not a bank account, nothing, everything gone. And after 7 months, I survived. And it was a very interesting period of time. And I thought, well, if I can do this, then I can do whatever I want to do. You know,
Mhm.
this is the biggest fear is to lose everything. And I've been there and it was okay. It wasn't that bad. It was difficult, especially because I couldn't see my 3 kids. That was horrible. But the rest is you. And that's not horrible. And after 7 months, I was thinking, well, if I can do whatever I want to do, then I want to create a global nonprofit and create the attention of people that don't perfectly fit in the box, people that are slightly different, because I think there's something interesting with them. And because they don't fit in the box perfectly, not everybody can see them, not everybody can hear them, but they have wonderful ideas. They have amazing thoughts. And there's a mismatch. It doesn't work well. And I was interviewing, like people on Zoom and put it there on YouTube. I was interviewing weird, different people. And they were all saying to me, if only people would understand me a little bit better, I could do so much more.
Yeah.
And I've always found that an intriguing sentence. Like, how does that work? What do you mean by if only people would understand me better? What does that actually mean? Um, so I decided to create that nonprofit, starting with the 50 interviews that I've done with these people. Like, okay, let's bring these nonlinear thinkers, that's how I call them. Let's bring them together and see what happens. Because while I was homeless, I also discovered that I have a nonlinear brain and I live in a linear world. That has been a duality for me that caused a lot of friction, but not anymore because I discovered that everybody is a nonlinear thinker. Every human being is a nonlinear thinker. There is no linear 2-year-old. And also, people think that nonlinear thinking is the opposite, the duality of linear, which is not. Linear thinking is the system, and nonlinear thinking is, I always call it the space between thoughts. It's where the creativity lies. It's where the gut instinct is. It is where we can have a biological connection with our brains right now, although I'm in Europe, you're in the US, and we communicate with each other through a dark fiber optic cable with ones and zeros. Yet I can feel who you are and I can feel a connection. And that, I think, that is so inspiring, and that's what we do. So we bring nonlinear thinkers together, meaning everyone, and be very nonlinear, meaning there are no rules, and let's see where it brings us. Let's see what happens. So what moves the octopus movement? It's a movement of thought. It's a movement of creativity and the official sentence of the Octopus Movement is a global human mycelium of nonlinear thinkers solving the unsolvable. And a human mycelium is what we just talked about before, that everybody's connected anyway. And I saw Paul Stamets explaining the mycelium in the ground, and I live in the forest, mushrooms and trees and connected and fruit bodies and fungi. I thought that's the same what we're having in humanity as well. Is that mycelium that we're all connected. Don't call it a community because in a community there's a set of rules. You go in or out the community. There's duality. There are badges. That doesn't work for me. If we really want to solve the unsolvable and do something interesting, then the focus should be first on the people and humans rather than creating a system to go somewhere. That's what the octopus movement is. And why the octopus? Well, 3 hearts, 9 brains, 8 arms. It can change color and shape. It has a weird DNA. People think they're aliens because of their DNA. And I think a lot of people also feel a bit like an alien from time to time, where they're masking, trying to be who they're supposed to be, what is expected from them, and what they expect from themselves. So when you look at the octopus movement now, you have around 8,500 members in 95 countries. The biggest thing is that they can be themselves. They don't have to wear a mask, and they're just intelligent, interesting human beings with a lot of neurodiversity is there, because neurodiversity is linked to being a bit different. So autism, ADHD, dyslexia. You don't have to have neurodiversity. It's not about the neurodiversity, but it's almost a coincidence that 90% of the people in the octopus movement have a connection sort of to neurodiversity,
It makes sense.
right?
I like I like everything you said there. I see that. I'm a leadership guy, and I see that where we have been for a very long time is operating in what I call systems of typicality.
Hmm.
You have to be typical, and you have to be normal, and you have to be um, not divergent from the norm in order to fit. And that the vast majority of the people that I'm meeting through the podcast are people who don't fit. I don't fit. I've known I've not fit since my first semester in college. And
Really?
oh yeah. I mean, I remember sitting in history class and thinking, how in the world am I going to read all this stuff? And it wasn't that I wasn't a reader or a good reader. It was that the way I read was I read in short pieces, and I reflect upon that. I think about it. And
Mhm.
how am I going to read a 500-page book on the U.S. history, while I'm having 4 other classes where the same amount of reading? I said, this is going to be impossible for me to succeed at. I didn't put it in quite those terms at that point, but I realized that I was a big picture person, and
Hmm.
details were not my forte. And I found myself in an American Studies program where I could study what I wanted. And so it was great. It turned out to be I was able to turn around my failing academic career and actually succeed and go forward. But what I've discovered is that the vast majority of people um, feel like they don't fit in. Even if they are included, they don't fit in, and they don't know why. And the organization, the structure of organizations is such that they're there to provide, um, not a place for people to thrive, but rather a place for people to simply produce
Yes.
or be exploited. And so I think, but here's what I want to say about this. So as a leadership person, I reacted when I became interested in leadership 40 years ago. I realized that I disagreed with what I was reading, and that I saw that anybody can take personal initiative to create impact, and that's what being a leader is.
Hmm.
And you measure your leadership, but what is it that you changed? What are you changing? And whatever that is, it's going to make a difference. Until after the COVID pandemic was over, I would say that system of typicality, that system of resistance to creativity and all that remained kind of the norm. But the pandemic kind of eroded that the rationale for that. And what I'm seeing emerge is that the future leaders of the world are going to be very different from the people have been the leaders of the past 2 or 3 centuries. And that people who are neurodivergent, people who are polymathic, people who are artists, who are creatives, people who don't fit in and recognize they don't, they're going to be the ones who emerge from this transition we're in to create the next era in human history.
And it's all thanks to AI.
Well, you have to convince me of that.
Okay.
Tell me why you think that.
Well, at first I did research why people like to be linear.
Yeah.
And so for people to thrive in a linearity, it has to do with the fact that they don't like to question their own mind.
Hmm.
So going into their own mind is with fear. It's difficult. They don't want to go there. So in order not to go there, not going into your mind means you want to stay in control, so you don't have to question how you're gonna respond with your own thinking. And that's linearity. That's creating systems. It's to be in control next week, next month, next year, doing the same thing. For a lot of people, that is I think, fake, but is a safety net to stay in control. I think that's also why there is a lot of burnouts and people that are not happy because they think that this is staying in control gives them safety, but you can never be completely in control, of course. Things happen in life. Now, with people with neurodiversity, for instance, they have questioned themselves many, many times. I have dyslexia, ADHD, I'm on the spectrum, and as a little kid at school, wasn't the most fun time of my life. If you always get the message, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You need to focus on your writing, and this is wrong, this is wrong. And having severe dyslexia means I can read something and I'm convinced that I'm reading it rightfully, but there's something else there. So I mix up words. So I make mistakes, right? So my thinking started early. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? So I've been going into my thinking and into my mind since I was a little boy. Why am I different from others? And by allowing, so I'm very grateful for that because it allowed me to go into that space of my own thinking and who I am. The result is that I can embrace nonlinearity. I can embrace chaos. I can embrace not knowing because I'm not knowing. I don't know why I'm different and what is happening. So if a lot of people go into this space of safety by creating systems and being linear and doing the same thing over and over and over, there's now something in the world that is very much into the space of systems and doing it over and over and over and becoming a specialist at specific elements. And that's AI. I think AI is wonderful in doing that. What are they saying? That ChatGPT 4 has now an IQ of 155, something like that. And it's very stable, and they did research. They use AI in the medical field, and 90% of the diagnoses were spot on, were actually right. And with doctors, with living humans, it's 74%, something like that. Still, we prefer to talk to a doctor when we're not feeling well than a computer. But I think because of AI being the master of systems and system thinking, on the other side, there needs to be creativity. So it's almost that AI is like a mixer. It's what you throw in and you mix and you get something out of there. And AI starts to think for itself. But it needs the creative mind and the gut feeling to produce something beautiful. And you can ask AI to create music and it becomes very beautiful. But in the end, you can feel if it's made by a human or made by a computer. Same with art.
It lacks context.
Sort of. Yeah. And I think that's the human intelligence that is on the other side of artificial intelligence. And that's why I'm saying leadership will change very soon, probably, because it's going so fast. But I think education will change soon as well. It's because of this. It's
I agree
this
with
is
that. I do agree with
this linearity is taken care of in a way that we cannot debate because it's done very well. And now let's go back in being a human. And I think that's also what we need from leaders. And we're actually creating a leadership project. And because I've been saying that I would love to create the nonlinear manager, and I want the nonlinear manager to be capable to do one thing is to pause the system, fix the problem, and reactivate the system. It's so simple, but it's not happening. And I've,
you.
especially since I've been homeless
Want
and
them to listen.
government. Sorry?
Want them to listen.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, if the person will listen, that's what you want. Then they
Yeah.
will hear you. And I see the value of AI, so I'm not disputing that. A friend of mine had asked it a bunch of questions and had this long several pages of responses to it, and we were in a group and he was reading it across, and I said, I know all of that, but what I know also is how that applies in my life. And that's not there, it's here.
Hmm.
And I think that's where the two come together, is that can tell us what we need to know, but what we need to do is something that has to come out of here. And the freedom, I think the freedom to do that, to allow whatever it is, I mean, we can, you know, do our chat GPT here right on the phone and it, produces it gives us information.
Hmm.
But then what do I do with that? How do I respond to that? How do I share that with other people in such a way that it joins us together in a way where, oh, we actually can do something together about this. This is the opportunity that it gets presented to us. And I think that change of structure, I think that's what I see is happening, is the change of structure is going to open up opportunities for people who found themselves confined by structure to be now free to go express themselves as persons. I call them persons of impact.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Very exciting. It's
Yeah,
wonderful. I can't wait. It's wonderful to be alive right now.
Yeah, I just wish I was 30 years younger.
How old are you, Ed?
71.
Oh, are you 71?
I am.
Seriously? Hmm.
I'm planning to live.
You don't look 71.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
There are days that I feel 71 physically, but other than
Yeah,
that,
but that's a different story.
but I'm not BC. I don't give time. I don't treat time as a thing.
No.
Time is just a measure on a phone. What I see is that opportunity is always awaiting, potential is waiting to be fulfilled, and um, change is the norm.
Hmm.
So 10 years ago, I started over. I had my consulting practice closed, the nonprofit I was running, I got fired from, my marriage ended, and I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm thinking, if I'm going to do anything with the rest of my life, and by the rest of my life, I'm seeing how all these people in my family, in my extended family, have lived well into their 90s. If I'm going to live another 30, 40 years, I better figure out what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
And um, and I'm still working on that. So
So what's the plan for the coming 25 years?
I'm going to I'm going to continue to write every day, and I'm going to talk to people like you every day, and allow for whatever structure or projects to emerge that I will act upon.
Hmm.
So I see that there is a need for what you have done. And so I'm contemplating how to take the people who have been guests on my podcast, who many of them are people I would say don't fit in, and create an environment for them where they fit in, and they they can talk like we're talking, in an unscripted way, find support, and if they need training in something, we provide the training, but to help them to advance in whatever way they decide they want to advance. But to create this out of this circle of people who um, I have a deep respect for and a deep love for, and um, feel like they represent um, something emerging in the world that I can't at this point I do not have language for.
Hmm.
But I would say this, that the people that I'm like you, that I'm, they're not, that I'm interviewing, they're not famous people, and they're not people who come on to simply promote something. They're not salespeople. Sorry, salespeople. I care about
Sorry, salespeople. Yeah, we
sorry,
love you.
great, but the people who only see themselves pitching, always pitching, never not pitching, even at home, they're pitching to their children, you know. But these are people who are doing what they want to do. They're making a difference, and no one really knows them, or a small group of people know them, and I feel like they don't need stardom. They need um, appreciation and acknowledgement, and it may be all they need for them to feel like I can go to the next level. So my purpose is to encourage and enable people to take personal initiative to create impact in their local communities. That's my purpose. Um, and I didn't realize when I started the podcast almost 2 years ago that that's what ended up being what I'm doing here by simply creating an open space. An empty room is one guy has called it, or an unscripted conversation is another has called it. By creating that, it allows for people to find their own place and maybe go somewhere that they didn't know they could go. And it's not me that's telling them that they just discover it because there's some kind of openness and freedom to discover that is communicated here.
Hmm.
And it's not therapy. It's not therapy. We're not trying to fix anyone. I
Yeah.
don't want to fix anyone. I just want to encourage people to make a
Not
difference.
even, not if I can share with you, um, I always say I'm not doing anything, and it's true. I'm working every day, and my day goes until 11 in the evening, and it's meeting wonderful people, it's organizing projects, it's making sure everything happens.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing anything. And and I think that's the beauty. I have a group of 134 founding members. Those are people who donated 300 euros into the nonprofit, and they became a founding member. That's some kind of an inner circle in the Octopus movement. We feel like family
Yeah.
because of it's not about the 300 euros, and it is about the 300 euros. So,
Okay.
by doing that, it's like something happens and I need to do something and I want to do the donation. I, by the way, during the homelessness, I decide also never ever to convince anyone anymore for the rest of my life. Because I used to be very active in the convincing game,
Mhm.
especially in my work. And in retrospective, when I was homeless and you think about everything, I was thinking that never turned out well. Every time I have to convince someone, it you have to pay the price eventually, somewhere along the line. I'm not doing that anymore.
I understand
No
that.
convincing. No convincing. And I'm not doing anything. So with the founding members, we meet once a month. It's a hangout session for the founding members. We have 134. If 30 or 40 people show up every month, then that's the number, more or less. There are a lot of founding members as well. Like, okay, I made the donations or a donation, and I'm here, and I want to support you. And that's so the beauty is, I think the beauty is not doing anything. And I see that with a lot of things. It's just being real without a mask, not convincing, and be there and and do something. And in my case, I wanted to be an artist, and I'm an artist now, and I love being an artist because there's no definition of what an artist is. So I love being in space without the definition. You know, it's not doing anything is the beauty. And people in the human in the founding members, but also outside of that, the human mycelium works best, and we're not doing anything to connect these dots or to say you need to talk to this one or that one. It just happens. It's incredible. So for your group at you don't have to do anything. You just bring them together and that's it. And
That's
you
right.
are as you are, and that's it. There's we're not giving any trainings, we're not doing anything, and we're doing a lot. It's but you understand what I mean,
I
right?
do. I really do. And
Yeah.
the way I see the training is simply I need help in this area. Can you help me? And I said, sure, I'll go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's the
typically
beauty of connecting all these. I love doing that. Because we have so many people in the movement. If someone needs something, I don't mind what it is, whatever it is. We can connect the dots. We just created an app, and it took us 2 weeks to make it all happen. And done. If if you have a network of nonlinear thinkers all over the world, everything is possible.
that is really true.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one more question. Um, Where do you find hope for the future?
Well, that implies that if you want to find hope, then there is no hope right now. And
Or is changing?
I'm very hopeful right now. I'm I'm very happy to be alive. I'm I think I'm happy to be alive, especially, and we're not promoting the Octopus Movement here, but if you have so many people like you, like others that are truly, without saying this in a space of woo-woo-ness, but truly with love, and they truly care about each other, then then that's beautiful.
Yeah,
And the connections that are there, I've people visited my house here in the Netherlands from the States, from Mexico, from Australia. Yeah, they send me a message. I'm coming. I'm coming to the Netherlands. I want to meet you. And then they spend a week or 2 weeks at my place. Isn't that beautiful? And then it feels like we already know each other for years because we spend time on Zoom, and people are sometimes complaining, this is not for real and it's online and it's not real. I don't see it that way.
I
I,
don't either.
I don't see it that way at all. And I think, and I was thinking about that this morning while I was walking my dog. I think there's a strange duality in knowing and not knowing. And I think we think we know a lot, and knowing is time, right? If you know something, time is connected by with knowing, and not knowing, there's no time in not knowing. So for me, the nonlinear space is the not knowing where there's no time. And because I'm wondering, why are so many people so unhappy today? I'm able to talk with you, Ed, here behind my laptop. For you, it's Thanksgiving. We're having a conversation. We don't have to get in a plane to meet each other. It doesn't cost us anything, and we can spend an hour together. This should make people happy, but I think people are so unhappy because of that linear safety net they want to be in. And we get so much information. So we know this and we know that, and it's consuming time and more time and more time, that we're so isolated in our own thinking and in our own time that we're losing the connection with nature and the connection with others. And I think that's what's going on right now. But if you see a group of people that are doing that, and the group of people is huge, so many people are very connected in a
Well,
true
then
way.
it seems like the distinction that is made often is between a virtual relationship and a direct relationship. And I used to make that.
Hmm.
I, then I realized that that was a false comparison
Yeah.
because this is virtual, but we are engaged in a direct interaction with one another. And our conversation would be a little bit different if I was present there and we may be drinking beer together at the same time. That
Single
would
malt whiskey, Ed.
or whiskey, whatever it may be, or smelling cologne, or I don't know what we. But we would. But that difference is qualitative and not quantitative. What we are doing here is as direct an interaction between two people as what would happen if we were present in the same space.
Hmm.
So I think the difference about relationships is not whether it's virtual or direct or physically present, but rather what is your intention? And my intention is to know you and to support you and to affirm.
But not knowing, Ed, so the space before our conversation now is you didn't know who I was. and I didn't know who you were. I saw you on YouTube and checked out, read some things, but I didn't really know you.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of what you're doing in your podcast. And this is also why you enjoy that so much, is that we're not caught up in the knowledge that we know of each other. So there's no lack of time in meeting each other. And I think that's the beauty of online meetings. Also something like Lunch Club. I don't know if you know Lunch Club, but it's wonderful. It's that system you log in, create a profile, and the system makes a new connection every week for you. And you can have a Zoom conversation with a complete stranger like this once a week. It's it's awesome. And they have an AI system that looks at your profile, and I think it listens to the conversation and therefore create the most amazing
Right.
connections you can imagine. But because you don't know them, there's no time loss in thinking before you meet someone, in having conversations. Next time I have to tell Ed that green is not his color or whatever. These thoughts are not there. So you're not wasting any time. And I think that's the beauty of what's happening right now.
I agree with you. It's I have felt for 20 plus years that we were at a transition point in human history.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I've said it's at a epochal level. It's bigger than a millennial change. It's bigger than it's at a significant thing where we have to go back 3 or 4 millennia, but in order to get to the place where all this where we are right now started.
Hmm.
And it's changing because for the first time in human history, each one of us can create a place in the world where our agency matters and have um, we have control over our agency. We get to decide what our agency is. And we don't, and if we don't like, say, where we work, because we feel like they deny our agency, it's now much easier to leave um, than than feeling like you have to stay because that's secure. Because nothing out there is secure anymore. Everything is insecure, and the only thing that's really secure is your own sense of who you are.
Yep.
And then you find people who you can build relationships where you can find some semblance of security or certainty in knowing one another because we're going to care about each other in the context of the life that we're living. And that's a little thing right now that's just going to grow, to be something immense in the next 30 years. I'm gonna get to see over the rest of my life this dramatic change in human history.
You're in the middle of it, Ed. I think
Oh no,
we are in the middle of it right now. And I think within 5 years, I don't think it takes 30 years. I think it's going so fast right now.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's it causes my head to spin. It wakes me up in the middle of the night, and so well, I thank you for being on here, for coming on. I thank you in particular for what you're doing and not doing.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah.
And I encourage you to continue both of those
Hmm.
and and send me whatever you would like for me to put in the show notes that communicates about the octopus and you, that allows other people to imagine, not feel obligated, but imagine what is possible when they decide to be nonlinear or different or free or
To
whatever they.
use to use your astrocyte cell in your brain. I just learned that. I think it's so fascinating. We have neurons, and there's the astrocyte cell close to the neurons, and the astrocyte is nonlinear thinking. That cell nurtures the neurons. And the neurons is almost like the linear thinking, the thoughts we have. And going into nonlinear thinking is quiet the mind in meditation, in, you know, shut it down. And everybody knows this. You're watching a movie, you're doing sports, whatever, and you're not thinking and you're in the middle of it, and time goes very fast, time disappears, and all of a sudden you have a brilliant idea or a thought pops up. That's nonlinear thinking, and we all do that, and we all have that. And we need to celebrate that because I think that's human intelligence.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's exciting. Well, I look forward to seeing you in person someday.
We
Uh,
will, Ed.
my my need to come to Europe is growing with every day. I mean, I enjoyed being in London a month ago, but now um, the moment is coming where I'm going to have to travel over all across Europe, seeing people who are my guests on the podcast and celebrating who they are, where they are, and what better um, what better thing can I do? Because every one of you all who come on here, I believe in, and I believe that you can do things that are beyond your own imagining if you just allow yourself the freedom to try.
To just do it
Yeah,
without any focus on results or expectations. Just do it. Just do
yeah.
it, right?
Right.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you all next time here on the Eddie Network podcast. I hope you will think about what you've heard today. And if you feel that you don't fit in and that you don't think like other people think, then maybe you should consider who you are as someone who is more different than others, as someone who is nonlinear in the way you approach things. Maybe you should check out the octopus. Sounds like a great opportunity for you. So we'll talk to you again here on the Eddie Network podcast. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.